Police officers, what absurd situation have you just happened upon and realized no one called the cops? I do mountain bike patrol in a mid-sized city, mostly covering parks and trails but sometimes dipping into residential areas. One morning, just after rush hour, I was cruising along and spotted this little kid, maybe 3 or 4 years old, just standing on the side of the road. No parents, no one nearby watching him, just standing there, looking kinda lost. I pulled over, got off the bike, and asked him where his parents were. The kid just shrugged like, I don't know. Obviously something wasn't right. I called it in, and as I'm talking on the radio, this dude runs out of some townhomes across the street. He says he's been watching the kid for a couple of hours to keep an eye on him. Okay, fair enough, but here's the thing. There were people around, lots of folks, and no one had called the cops about this little kid wandering around alone for hours. Not a single call. Turns out the kid had wandered out of a room he and his mom were staying in at a shelter nearby. This wasn't some homeless shelter, by the way. It was a shelter specifically for abused women and their children, a temporary place to stay while social workers figure out their next steps. Think of it like a secure hotel with minimal staff, not a full-service rehab or homeless facility. Anyway, the kid somehow got past the manager and even a court police officer who was on duty there. The mom had died from a heroin overdose 3 days earlier. The poor kid got hungry, left the room, and wandered out onto the street. No one inside the shelter checked on the mom. Apparently, no one had gone in to see her despite a strong smell coming from the room. The whole situation was heartbreaking. I mean, just picture it. A tiny kid alone on the street, no idea what's happened to his mom, while people who are supposed to be responsible are basically letting him slip through the cracks. The shelter's setup was supposed to protect women and children like him, but the reality? The place was understaffed and more hands-off than you'd expect. The women there had freedom to come and go, and staff wasn't around 24/7 to monitor things closely. That kid should have been with someone, and his mom shouldn't have been left alone like that in the first place. I ended up having to stay with the kid until social services arrived, trying to keep him calm and safe. Honestly, it felt like no one else had his back. It's awful to think what could have happened if I hadn't been riding by that morning. The whole thing really stuck with me. It's one of those absurd situations where you realize the system isn't as tight as it looks on paper. People talk about shelters as safe havens, but sometimes the reality is way messier. And the craziest part? No one called the cops about a tiny kid wandering the street for hours. Everyone just assumed someone else was handling it. It really opened my eyes to how easily kids can fall through the cracks, even when they're supposedly in the system. I keep thinking about that kid, and I hope wherever he ended up after that morning, he's safe and getting the help he deserves.